welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. 8:34. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Good to see you.
It is. Oh, yes. Oh.
No, not good to see you.
Good to see you.
Not to see you again, but good to see you.
Hello.
That's just creepy.
Thank you very much. Marianne Hotter and Tom Slater here to take us through the papers again.
Hello. Good to see you.
Oh, dear me.
Good to see you.
Let's kick off with the Sunday Times, Tom, and a bit of Joe Biden.
Yes, it is the Biden show on the blink, is the headline of Josh Glancy's piece here. Just wrapping up a very gaffe-filled week for the Commander-in-Chief. So there was that moment last weekend where, speaking in Poland, he said out of nowhere at the end of his speech, for God's sake, this man cannot remain in power, referring to Vladimir Putin, and instantly the White House having to walk back this idea that he was calling for regime change.
We talked to an analyst, intelligence analyst last week, who said he thought it was deliberate.
There has been a big debate about that, whether or not it was him just letting slip. But in a way, either way you look at it, it's not good. Either this is a secret plan that he's let loose to the public, or it's something that isn't the plan, which he's just said as a matter of emotions getting the better of him. But this piece is just really looking at the fact that, especially going into the midterms later this year, just things being really bad for the Democrats, not only because his comments recently been very reckless and inflamed the situation, but just domestically, poll numbers are in the doldrums. Also, his deputy, obviously, the vice president, Kamala Harris, is even less popular than he is, and also similarly not a great public speaker, often speaks kind of like a malfunctioning motivational speaker. So it's just looking not particularly good for them, and there not being a kind of clear sense of who would even take
the week before, I can't remember because I was on holiday and you lose track of time, but didn't he also give away where he was going? Which was a bit of a security risk, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He said, I'm in Poland tomorrow. I said, maybe I shouldn't be saying that.
There's been a whole stream of them, one of which him speaking to soldiers in Poland, saying, you'll see when you get there that the Ukrainians are like this again, kind of just letting the hairs running on what it is that he's supposedly planning next. It's just, when you've got someone this gaffe-prone with a situation this tense and serious, it's not a good combination.
And also, if you're a Democrat, is when you know that you're probably going to be up against a revived President Trump, or former President Trump, in the next election. Is he the best that Democrats can do at the moment? Well, no, he said he's not. He's not running again.
Well, he's never, as far as I know, I'm not sure if he said it publicly, but it seems to be the assumption that he wouldn't. I mean, by the end of
I think he said it publicly, hasn't he?
I don't know, but he can't possibly. Right, it would be 80 years.
I think they said if he did a second term, he'd be 86 by the time it was over. So, and he's obviously just at the moment struggling with.
But Kamala Harris is just not strong enough to be the only contender, is she? So the Democrats have got to come up with somebody else.
And that's the problem. There's no obvious who that person would be, and also it would just be really ugly because it was always expected that if Biden didn't run, it would be Harris. The fact that she's not, it's just going to open up a massive fight, basically, within the Democratic Party, precisely at something they don't want to have.
Let's have a look at the Observer, Marianne.
Yes.
Why is it saying that a lack of COVID tests is threatening the economy? Because I would have thought it was the other way around.
So the suggestion is that, obviously, you've got in the news that we've got huge numbers of people with COVID-19. Now, they're not necessarily incredibly ill, although obviously even a small proportion of people getting very badly ill of a very large number is still a lot of people, and those are potentially preventable deaths. And the suggestion, the advice now of the Living with COVID plan is if you have any kind of respiratory illness, so it doesn't really matter whether it's COVID-19, Omicron, or whether it's a common cold or some other kind of thing. If you've got a high temperature, if you're not feeling well, stay at home, don't try and carry on going to work, just pop a few paracetamol and go, I'll be fine. Because obviously you're spreading illness to people who may be much more vulnerable. But the kind of argument for businesses is that they're dealing with staff absence. And if one person comes in and they're ill, but they don't realise quite how ill they might be, which they would perhaps be able to tell if they took a test, then they potentially infect customers, the rest of the workforce, and so you can't operate a business where suddenly your whole workforce gets sick and can't come to work. And actually maybe testing helps businesses manage that, helps employees make good decisions. So maybe one person is off for 3 days rather than your whole staff is off for a week and a half.
Yeah. Look, I just want to pause you there because, I don't know, we have a problem with your mic, Tom.
Oh, really?
So
we're going to
floor manager, come on in.
Yeah.
Should I carry on chatting?
So we'll talk to you. So just
Yeah.
No, in your own time.
Come on in. Come on in. We love your jumper.
Yes, there you go.
Right.
So we'll sort you out, Tom. In the meantime, because I would have thought, because the argument has always got to be, if you don't feel, if you feel really awful, you don't go to work. And if you think you can manage, you do go to work. I don't feel very well today, but
Now you tell us.
Yeah, it's not. I know it's not COVID, but it's like, isn't that just what happens anyway?
Well, I mean,
Well, it's always been a judgment call, hasn't it?
Well, that's it. And if we can cast our minds back to the days before, the global pandemic, you'd be standing on a busy train or a bus at a kind of rush hour, and there'd be someone standing next to you with a streaming coughing and snorting, and you'd be there like going, oh, God, that's disgusting, I'm going to get ill. And you just get on with it. And I really hope we don't go back to those bad old days, because I think hopefully at least we are a little bit more aware, a little bit more sensitive to the fact that one of the other people on the bus or train may well have a condition, an immune condition where they are much more vulnerable, or kind of a health condition, or they're a carer for an elderly parent. And the problem is, there are free COVID tests that are still available for care staff, NHS staff, people in high-risk environments, and some high vulnerability patient or people. But there aren't, for example, free tests for people who are informal carers. So if you're looking after an elderly relative or a parent, you're just having to guess and hope for the best, which is not a place where it's hard enough being a carer. We have to thank people for that work, that service that they do, which is so under-recognised in society.
Yeah.
At least we can do is give them support to stay healthy.
Well, I suppose, we're, in the end, you end up kind of elevating COVID over all other respiratory.
Well, there is that, yeah.
And also, I think a lot of the discussion about, people, should just get into this habit of kind of working from home when they feel a bit ill. There's a lot of people who can't do that, and that was
But
one
we
thing.
know how easy it is to wear a mask nowadays.
Well, this-
Maybe, if you are suffering from some sort of respiratory disease, or your nose is running or whatever, wear a mask. Don't infect others.
And that was, of course, what happened in a lot of those East Asian countries after SARS and MERS. Just as a courtesy, wearing one after being not all the time for the sake of it, but after being ill for a few days, etc. Maybe people will make those
It's
adjustments.
easy enough
but
to do.
It's not easy for some of these adjustments aren't easy for everyone, shall we say? That's my point.
Moving on, Tom, to the Mail on Sunday, looking at our heating bills.
Yes, we've hit a grim milestones that at the moment it's costing people £10 a day to heat their homes, just because we've had that combination of the hike in prices alongside this cold snap. So obviously a lot of people had turned off their heating when we had that nice warm spell of weather recently. And as a result of this, collectively, we're spending £280 million daily to keep warm. And just how this is just another demonstration of what a serious hole we're in with these energy prices.
But when it's
and they're
like
only
that,
gonna go up again.
£10 a day to heat your home, my goodness, you can see how that mounts up.
And this is without talking about all the other costs that people are incurring. There's a point made here that water, broadband and mobile phone bills, because of inflation, are also at record high. So just everyone feeling the pinch and their budgets being eaten away at from all directions, essentially. And again, just more pressure on Rishi Sunak to do more to help those people at the lowest end.
I wonder what's that. Broadband and things all needs to come down. I saw an advert the other day for it was a very fast broadband, not miraculous. They say, it's half price now. So for the next month, it's only £35 a month.
Crumbs.
Why would you pay 70? 35 is a lot of money as well.
It is.
And that feeds into what ends up being a sort of like two-tier society where, employers or employees are being told work from home. But if you haven't got good broadband, you're spending more time at home, so you're keeping the heating on, the lights on, all those extra costs that are being put onto working people, rather than being borne by the government, by your employer. And it's a screw that keeps turning, and people are going to break, and it's not fair, and our government really needs to do something. I don't understand how they can see this tsunami of suffering coming towards
Do you know what
them.
they
Rishi
ought to do?
Sunak's just going, oh, well, you'd be all right, I'll give you a loan for 200 quid
Yeah,
that you have to pay
no
back.
good. Absolutely.
You've got to pay it
Do you know
back.
they should bring back those public service announcements on the telly that say, just remember that every time you turn off a light switch, you save yourself X, Y, or do this or do that. One of those public service announcements, they ought to bring those back.
I think they should
And we
have
would all get tips from that.
Well, the BBC
Be
is a public
reminded.
service broadcaster, as is Channel 4.
Yeah,
Well,
but
what about-
they don't run them.
What about public broadcast saying, every time you turn a light switch on, a very wealthy oil and gas.
Yeah, you're
you know,
making an oligarch.
yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing.
Puts an extra tenner
You know,
in their pocket.
That would actually really, ring home, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, hopefully it would
Not
mean that we
strictly true,
actually, step up towards saying, can our government actually do something to support people, please?
Well,
Please.
yeah.
That'd be nice.
I think something does need to be done. What's ruffling feathers in the Sunday Telegraph, Tom?
So this is a story about apparently now 3/4 of seagulls live in towns and cities. So it's causing a lot of problems insofar as the fact that obviously you've got the noise disruption, it's crying early in the morning. There's also, attacking toddlers with their food sitting down in the park and all the rest of it.
Nicking your chips.
Nicking chips, of
Yeah.
course. And there being a new discussion about changing the rules effectively. Because at the moment, because I think technically herring gulls are not necessarily in danger, but certainly on the decline, it's very difficult to, for instance, disrupt nests or to do anything to try and mitigate against these things. So they're looking at them again because of the fact that, towns and cities are now where seagulls predominantly live.
I think this is the people who aren't used to them just now moaning. I mean, Barrow, where I'm from, there's always been seagulls. We're right on the coast.
Yeah.
No one thinks twice about it.
Yeah.
You always
Except
get them
when-
around rubbish tips as well, don't you?
Except when they get on the middle of the road and spread their wings out, because they're huge. They are huge. But
Yeah.
I quite like them. They're sort of quite nice.
Well, they're amazing. I mean, if we can think of them as wildlife and that actually they're adapting to our environment, if we want to change their behaviour, rather than smashing up eggs.
Well,
and
maybe we've got to
killing
change our.
them,
Maybe
let's
we've got to
them-
change our behaviour.
Yeah,
Because
let's
that's the reason
stop
that we
leaving
get-
litter
we
around.
get urban
and-
foxes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
we leave too much litter around.
Yeah.
We deal in
Again.
And that's apparently the primary thing they want to look at. Is just if you sort out that, then that's a large chunk of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the amount of litter, because I don't live in London, thankfully. But we drive into London to come here in the morning. The litter on the streets is terrible. Can't get over it. Can we just have a quick look, Mary? I think we've got time to have a look at the Stone Age revival in the Telegraph, because it's about mourning at burial sites.
I love this.
I
Okay.
love the burial mound.
Love a burial mound.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them are obviously original, so Neolithic, the late Stone Age, same era as Stonehenge.
Yeah.
About 2,400 in this country, 2,400 BC to about 4,500 BC to about 2,400 BC. So a fair time ago.
Oh, yeah.
There's a chap in Kent who, in an area called Dode, which is in the North Downs, and he has been the person to renovate a medieval chapel in this kind of lost village that was depopulated because the people all died of the plague in the Middle Ages. And he's now achieved his dream of building a modern barrow, a sort of a new old burial mound where you can put the urn of a loved one, their cremated remains, into this barrow and have it as a place where you can celebrate their life rather than mourn their death. And he's like, this should be multi-religious. This is about bringing community together, engaging with the ancestors.
I quite like that.
I love it.
I quite like
Bring
that.
it on.
Why does it have to be a mound, though? Really,
Because it's a very ancient tradition.
I see.
Because they're of the earth.
yeah.
Because they're, deep, held in the arms of Mother Nature, if you will.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
You can do with the imagery what you will.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're rethinking all of those things nowadays.
Love it. Yeah.
I like that. And I
Don't-
like celebrating life rather than
Yes.
mourning it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Tom, Marianne, thank you
Thank you
both.
very
We're out of time. It's been a joy, as always.
Have a lovely Sunday.
Thank
And if you're having a Sunday lunch, have a wonderful one with Yorkshire.
I'm having spaghetti bolognese.
Oh,
Sorry.
Spaghetti bolognese! This is outrageous. We've been talking all about Sunday lunch today. Let us know what yours is going to be like.